Hey everyone, Anthony Fantano here, Internet's busiest music nerd. You know who it is. I hope you're doing well. This video is going to be a letter from a fan segment, although I do not have the letter in front of me right now because I deleted the letter because I responded to it personally because I thought I didn't need or didn't want to make a video about this, that there would be no interest in this video. However, I thought since a lot of you enjoy content on the internet and I make content on the internet for a living, I should probably say something. And the gist of this letter, the gist of the question from the writer was, can new media and old media coexist? And why does there need to be sort of this hostility between these two different ways, these two different philosophies of media creation? And here's the thing. I think new media and old media have a naturally antagonistic relationship, much in the same way that you have a huge political and cultural divide between the youngest generation of today and the oldest generation of today. It's just sort of playing out in a completely different playing field. However, there are totally different interests at work when it comes to new media versus old media. It's not just merely a philosophical, sort of disagreement or, a difference of point of view. Old media is literally trying to monopolize all that you see, that you hear, that you read. Here's an infographic that I found on Business Insider. This is just kind of very general information that I've seen printed over and over and over in numerous publications. Like, this is very widely understood and known information. Look it up yourself. But I thought that, hey, people like pictures, so this should be easy to sort of digest. It's a very long-winded, sort of infographic over here. I recommend that you look at all of it, but I basically wanted to just highlight the very top of it. And that is essentially the cold hard fact that everything that you read, watch, or listen to in the U.S. is owned by one of 6 different media conglomerates, at least 90% of it anyway, which is quite a bit. And these companies are ones that you are most likely familiar with: GE, News Corp, Disney, Viacom, Time Warner, CBS, and underneath them you can see the companies, the news media organizations, the publications, the radio stations that they own: ABC, ESPN, Pixar, BET, CMT, Nick Jr., MTV, CNN, HBO, Time, Warner Brothers, Jeopardy, 60 Minutes, so on and so forth, NBC, Comcast, the list goes on and on and on and on and on. So why does there sort of need to be this adversarial relationship between new media and old media? The old media actively does not like the fact that the internet provides an incredible amount of competition to the things that they write, the things that they produce as far as visual content, movies, television, news content, and radio as well with the podcasting industry. They literally do not like that. And the fact that GE also owns Comcast puts them in direct interest of this whole net neutrality conversation that we've been having as of late, as net neutrality has essentially been under fire under the Trump administration, trying to essentially strip away the ability for all websites to be on an equal and accessible playing field on the internet. Please look up net neutrality. Please get sort of educated on this issue so that the next time you hear it talked about in the news, or you hear that there's a bill up to be sort of voted on or approved in the House or the Senate, that you know what the hell is going on and you know what the hell people are talking about. This sort of gutting of net neutrality, which is very much a priority and an interest of Trump's FCC director right now. And listen, this is not anything specifically to do with Republicans or Trump. It was under threat and under danger under Obama as well. And Democrats, including the Obama administration, only got behind supporting net neutrality after there was a huge public outcry on the internet against gutting net neutrality. Getting rid of net neutrality could essentially make your favorite websites harder to access, and these media corporations and the subsidiaries that they own will obviously be put on the fast track, or they'll be able to pay the fees that they'll need to pay to continue to be on that fast track and stay on that fast track, so that their websites, their video content, their audio, their text is the most easily and quickly accessible on the internet. Meanwhile, anything niche, anything alternative, anything with a different point of view, anything that's independent, anything that's just starting out and doesn't have a dime to its name, because a lot of people start making content on the internet. Many of your favorite content creators started just making it with no budget, but a whole ton of passion. Those people are going to be ground into just sort of freaking oblivion. You know, I'm sure there will be some big content creators who, you know, if net neutrality were to be gutted now, could continue to thrive and succeed because they'll be able to pay whatever fees are thrown at them. But for anybody who's starting out, anybody who's new to the game, anybody who is just beginning, it's going to be a struggle. And companies like Comcast, ISPs are actively trying to make that struggle harder. Again, through net neutrality. You know, we've also seen this hostility flare up through the old media's attacks on new media, trying to delegitimize new media. A recent example of that was the Wall Street Journal's attack on Pewdiepie, trying to paint him as an anti-Semite, taking jokes that he made out of context. I get and I fully understand how, in light of these jokes, companies like Disney and YouTube may want to sort of cut ties with Pewdiepie because, you know, some of the jokes he was making, even in context, were somewhat edgy. And that's not necessarily content that they would want to affiliate themselves with. However, this sort of ongoing attack against platforms like YouTube as being racist or a hotbed of anti-Semitism or a hotbed of hatred didn't stop just simply at Pewdiepie. You know, there was this whole expose, as it were, where people were sort of screen grabbing shots of hate videos and saying, hey, look, ads are running on these, and created essentially this ad apocalypse situation on YouTube, where you have all of these companies divesting money out of YouTube because of the mostly untrue narrative that you know, YouTube is filled with haters and filled with racists, and you know, ads are running on tons of their content. Google's making money off of Nazi videos. Like, it's total bullshit. You know, the thing is, generally on YouTube, if you've put up any YouTube content ever, there are a lot of restrictions on the type of stuff that you can say and have be monetized on YouTube. And now, since the ad apocalypse, while most advertisers have come back, most articles that you'll see will say that the ad apocalypse is effectively over. Still, the restrictions that were put in place in order to sort of make those companies happy are still in place. And now people who are making totally sort of advertiser-safe content, you know, but maybe talking about things like political issues, their ad revenue has effectively been cut in half. You know, their livelihood has been greatly threatened by the old media's dishonest portrayal of exactly how platforms like YouTube work. And, you know, this is all despite the fact that one of the creators of this WSJ video, this WSJ article against Pewdiepie, was caught himself making really horrible anti-Semitic jokes on his Twitter account, Mr. Ben Fritz. Shout out to Ben Fritz for being an anti-Semitic piece of trash who basically called out Pewdiepie for doing exactly the same thing that he did. Except I would actually say that his jokes over here on Twitter went a little bit of a step further. And that's the thing. A lot of people creating these articles, creating this content, excuse me, that's attacking new media, they're not really all that better. They're just usually pieces of hypocritical trash who are just trying to throw new media under the bus because it means better for their bottom line. You know, they're essentially looking out for their wallet, for their pocket, for their own self-interest. They're basically just being a watchdog to the media company that owns them and pays them, and really that's it. So, you know, do be wary and do watch out when you do see attacks of new media in the old media, you know, specifically when they're coming out of these companies and their subsidiaries, because, again, attacking new media is in their self-interest. It's in their business interest, because there's sort of a series of fundamental differences between new media and old media in terms of censorship, in terms of political philosophy, in terms of audience engagement, in terms of topic specificity, in terms of its creative dynamics, how new media can sort of change with the times in a way that old media is sort of refusing to. Freedom of expression, creative control, diversity of ideas. You know, thanks to new media, you had people like Bernie Sanders take way more attention in this past election than he probably would have in any other election prior. Again, simply because there was this huge groundswell of support for Bernie on, YouTube, on Twitter, on a variety of different social media platforms where you had people who could actually access information about him, whereas, you know, places like CNN wrote him off immediately. Places like MSNBC would show an empty Trump podium instead of a speech from Bernie Sanders because, you know, they're just trying to pump up Trump. And, you know, again, even though the media acts like it's against Trump, please do keep in mind and remember that the media essentially created Trump by giving him billions and billions and billions of dollars in what was essentially free airtime because they couldn't help themselves. They couldn't stop. They weren't being informative. They weren't helping inform the electorate. They were basically just trying to show Trump as much as possible in the hopes that he would say something ridiculous and create essentially a media circus around him, which he himself fed into. You know, it takes two to tango, but the media definitely played into that, and he would have been nowhere near as relevant and as popular had he been if he was getting just as much media attention as every single one of his competitors. So listen, the media at the end of the day is not here to inform you. They're just here to make a buck off you. And, you know, honestly, I'll come out and honestly say, I'm here to do that too. I'm here to do that too. I'm here to make a dollar. I'm here to make a living. However, I am just one small person, you know, trying to make it on the internet and make a living for myself and make a living for the people who I love and the people around me. I'm not a giant multi-billion-dollar media corporation. I don't own 90% of what you read, watch, or listen to. I don't think there's anything philosophically wrong with creating content to make a dollar. However, I do think there is something philosophically wrong with sort of owning and basically monopolizing, because this is almost literally a monopoly, and monopolizing so much of the media that we consume. Because I think, especially this past election, it's been shown to have some pretty harmful results because the public is not informed. They're not making informed decisions. People don't actually know about whether or not they should be trusting their political sort of betters, as it were. We don't understand how our government really truly works. People are just kind of watching in the news these days what is essentially like the Real Housewives of Washington. You know, it's like every single day in Washington is just another stupid drama. Meanwhile, what's actually going on behind the scenes politically? What's actually like, you know, affecting our everyday lives in terms of the policy that these people are passing? I feel like we've had a little bit of a breath of fresh air with a recent focus on healthcare. But, you know, honestly, it's like we're not really getting that much information. I mean, Trump recently passed that bill that allows ISPs, which had 6% popularity amongst the American people. How this is democratically sort of instilled as a policy, I don't know. 6% support amongst the American people. ISPs can now take your internet information, your user information, your browsing information, and sell it to advertisers. You know, if you told me that we didn't live under an oligarchy, I mean, I don't know. You'd have to convince me. You'd have to really work to convince me. But I'm sort of digressing here at this point. Listen, all the articles that I referenced are down there in the description. And next time you see something like net neutrality, sort of in the news, being discussed, it's up for consideration or a vote in the House or the Senate, do pay attention, do get involved, do say something. Find the phone number or the contact information of your senator, of your representative in Congress. Give them a call. Have your friends give them a call and say something. I've done it. You should do it too, because those phone calls, those contacts, they add up. Tell them what you're interested in. Tell them what's important to you. Tell them what matters to you. Tell them what would get you to vote for someone else and get them kicked out of their job because their job is to represent you. Tell them that, because if you don't tell them anything, then all they're going to listen to is lobbyists. All right, I'll catch you guys in the next video. You're the best.